Hey guys, Troy here, back with another video today. I'm very excited to be hosting a guest, a great guy. I was lucky enough to be featured on his channel, had a great chat, so wanted to continue that over here on my channel. Would like to welcome Anthony from Milone Money Mindset.
What's good, everyone? How's it going, Troy? Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here. Had a blast having you on the
Yeah,
channel. A lot of fun. So looking forward to this today.
definitely. And I have to thank you for getting up early. You know, we have a Philippine
Yeah.
America time change, but we're working through it. We're making it work. Um,
No doubt, no doubt.
Definitely. So yeah, just to get right into it, for some of you guys, you might know Anthony has a pretty big channel, talks about sports cards, but he also does a lot of like personal finance and stock picks and a lot of cool stuff over there. So make sure you check that out. But I just wanted to ask you, coming from speaking, because if I'm not mistaken, did your channel start with stocks or like more
Yeah,
finance as
yeah,
well?
it did. And then I kind of transitioned into sports about like so I started last September,
Yeah.
and then I think I did my first live stream in like November, December, and it was a football based stream.
Mm,
So I'm a big fantasy football guy. So I started doing like before the games on Sundays, like an hour before, and I would have like a couple picks for daily fantasy. And like, okay, these guys could be
yeah.
undervalued at their current prices. And people would also come in and ask for lineup advice. And I'd be like, okay, this guy, that guy. So I always wanted to kind of incorporate more sports, but I didn't really start doing the sports car related content until I think May of this year. But that was like the first transition into trying to connect with some sports channels and kind of test out my already built up viewership with stocks to kind of see how it kind of translate with the football content. So that's when I started kind of getting into the sports cards this past May.
Oh wow, that's awesome. And yeah, exactly. On that note, you talked about the switch from stocks to kind of getting more. I know you mentioned you've always been a collector, but kind of getting more
Yeah,
into the
big time.
sports card
Yep.
investing that everyone's talking about.
Yep.
What is the biggest thing you've learned coming from that stocks? Maybe even you can touch on daily fantasy too that you've brought to sports cards.
Yeah, so I kind of look at them like as an investment, of course, to kind of see guys that are undervalued, like similar to a stock. Like sometimes you'll just find stocks are kind of maybe lagging the market for whatever reason. Maybe just analysts are not too high on the stock, or maybe they had a poor earnings of past. So similar to like a poor earnings, I kind of would translate that to a poor season in the past. So a guy like I've invested in, like a Saquon Barkley, kind of had an off year. Granted, he got hurt this year, but like kind of trying to look for guys who could be undervalued in the market based on past performance, but they've already been kind of established and shown they can be at the cream of the top when it comes to a total athlete in the league. So definitely looking at guys that could potentially be undervalued and lagging the market. Also, just trend analysis, just understanding how stocks move and say like some stocks are very seasonal, but depending if they're like a holiday, like a Best Buy, they're
Yeah,
going to get a really nice uptick as you get closer to say a Black Friday or the holiday season. That's kind of similar with sports cards as you're kind of leading up to the football season. You're going to get all that hype, that excitement out of those football cards. And then similar with the stock, you might even see a dip after the holiday season on a stock like Best Buy. So that kind of translates to the season coming to an end. Teams not making the playoffs. So there's a lot of trends that go into the overall sports market with timing of when the season started, when the season's ending, and then also from the performance side. So that's kind of like get looking for guys that are undervalued, maybe stocks that are lagging, players that are lagging.
yeah, definitely that makes sense. And just thinking about that, I've talked a little bit about how it's way different than stocks, but having like because I was a collector like you for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
I think there's certain things like I've touched on. I think I even touched on it in our video. Collectors really enjoy like patch autos and variation,
yeah,
kind of finding some different things. And if you think that's what is valuable from an investing standpoint, it's going to be wrong. Like that was one of the things I made a mistake
yeah.
with. Is there anything that you brought over from stocks and you're like, okay, this is how it's going to work, and then it was completely different?
Let me think. Definitely. I mean, some guys I bought like right now, I got my Yankees gear in the back,
Yeah,
and I think just going a little too much on gut and just personal feeling
yeah,
can come back to bite you. So I really thought they had a great chance this year of going deep. It was heartbreaking to watch them yesterday to lose 2-1. So I went pretty heavy on some guys like that. So I think maybe trying to stay away from the bias and guys that you really like just because of that fandom. Granted, I still think there's a lot of value with some of the guys I've been picking up, like Aaron Judge, Cole, and Gleyber Torres. But granted, their price is going to start going down now that they got that exit. So I would say, trying not to go too heavy on gut feeling and just personal attachment, and kind of look more into that investment standpoint of it.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say something like that because, for instance, sorry guys, a lot of stock talk here. We'll move it more to sports cards, but a stock, for instance, I believe in. I'll invest in something like Lululemon. I invested in them back in
Mm-hmm.
2014 because I saw, guys. It was like they hardly had any men's clothing. It wasn't, but then guys really
Yeah.
started wearing it, and I think seeing those kind of
Mm-hmm.
trends, that it happened. It affected the stock, and it really started rising.
Yeah, that thing's been on fire.
But
Yeah.
in sports cards, I feel like there's a little bit of that. There's hobby hype. There's certain guys who
Yeah.
are not overpriced. Even once again, first Tyler Hero mentioned in the video, but he's probably a little higher priced than he should just because everyone really likes him. But literally, the whole hobby could like someone, and if they don't show it on the court or on the field, I feel like the prices don't really translate.
Oh yeah, big time, big time, and big congrats to the Heat getting it done last night, bringing it to game what 6? Yeah,
Yeah,
3-2 now.
that was
Yeah,
a huge game. I'm not every time
that
Duncan
was
Robinson hit a three, I was jumping up and down.
dude. That was a fun one. It's funny to see LeBron. It's just a given LeBron move. He'll drive and then kick it out. Like, no, that's your shot. You got to take that last shot. But I mean, it was a wide open look for Danny Green.
Yeah,
He's got to knock that down. But
that,
crazy game.
that's the right move right there. And
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, he was over the top of the key. You got to give it to him. But
exactly. And on that note, yeah, okay, right into sports cards, guys. Sorry, no more stock talk. Something like I love because Anthony, you're a really smart guy, and like that's just something I like to discuss with you. I like to get your opinion on that. But
yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
more on the sports card note, me and my brother actually, our big purchase was we split a LeBron James Topps rookie card, and
Nice.
so it sounds nice. That card got all the way up to $2,000, and then it
Hmm.
got back down to about 1,300.
Okay.
We bought
Really? Wow, that's a big drop.
right, especially with him going for a title. It seemed like a can't miss thing. But
Yeah, and he's been playing very well. I mean, last night, even though they lost, he balled out.
yeah,
I mean, I think he had a triple double or really close to it and
yeah, he kind
everything.
of took over, especially with Anthony Davis being hurt a little bit there, but
Mm,
and stagnant at 1,400. And the thing, I'm sure plenty of people might be like, oh, it's factored into his price already, or all this kind of stuff. And I made a video on like the sports card market just a couple weeks ago, and I said, Giannis going down, Kawhi going down, that's fine, that makes sense. When I'm going to be worried
yeah.
is when stuff is going down, not when they're playing well. So that's the thing that's
Mm,
kind of been worrying to me. LeBron,
yeah, that is a little strange. Him going down as they're this close away
yeah,
from winning a title in the iconic city of LA. I mean, yeah, he'd be the what? He'll have 3 different rings on 3 different teams.
Finals
I mean, one
MVP.
ring on 3 different teams. Yeah,
Yeah,
final. Yeah, that too.
it seems like he's set for a Finals MVP, and so his price has been going down, and at best been like stagnant. Um, Not that it's really that relevant, but for some of you guys who watch me, Vinicius Jr.,
Yeah.
I've talked a lot about, a Real Madrid winger. He started off the season
Mm,
scoring goals, and his cards have gone down 50%. So
wow.
that's kind of where I'm at. I'm a little worried about what I've been seeing. What has been your
See,
experience?
what I think about the LeBron, I think a lot of it has to do with the volume of cards being listed,
Yeah,
and it just can't keep up with that pricing. And I think at some point, it's just going to catch up, especially if he wins. I think you'll get those prices back or even higher than that 2000 because it's just going to bring so much to his cards. I mean, this is like next level, him winning a chip in LA. It's going to bring in potentially a lot of LA fans. It's like, okay, I see you now. Like now you're
yeah,
legit. I'll get a card of yours. They're kind of testing, like wait until he gets that final last straw with them, get that chip for
definitely.
him.
I think just the fact that it's going to be all over First Take, ESPN, everything. The goat debate is going to be reignited. So
Yeah,
even just that, I, I'm,
yeah,
I think I'm okay with my LeBron because if the card market is ever going to keep going, that's the card. That's
he's gonna go. Yeah,
against stock. Sorry, one more stock, but that's Apple, that's Amazon, that's any of these things.
100%,
So
100%. Yeah, and that's a guy I look for was Peyton Manning. So I'm a big Peyton Manning fan. I kind of thought like the same kind of thing. Already, in the hall, not in the Hall of Fame, but he's gonna be in the Hall of Fame. So he's kind of like one of those blue chips.
yeah, definitely. So I'm good with LeBron with the long-term hold, I think I'll be okay. But I wanted to ask you, you actually, from just talking, you move sports cards pretty frequently. Like you're doing quick
Mm-hmm.
flips and everything like that. So
Yeah.
have you sensed, obviously there's been a cooling off, but what is your opinion on the market right now? Maybe even over the last
100%. Yeah, big cool down. I'm trying to think what was my best month, but I had 1 month or 1 week I sold like 12 or 15 cards, and I didn't have that many listed. I
yeah.
didn't have like 100, 200 cards listed. I maybe had like 20, 30 cards listed. So they were just going, going, going.
Mhm.
And most of those were buying nows. I hardly do any auctions
Yeah.
depending on the card if I don't know what it's going to get. Because if I buy a card that say maybe like a prism or a very like there's really limited cards, I typically might go for auction because I
Uh,
don't know what's going to sell for. But typically if I have like a Topps update rookie card, like some of those, like
yeah.
I have an idea what it's going to go for. I do buy nows, and those are selling like hotcakes. And I think this past week I sold one card, so it's definitely been slowing down a little bit. But right now I do have a lot of Yankees up there, so I was kind of pricing them much higher. So I would have to probably get some different cards up there to kind of see if it really is the market overall. It's just my cards because my cards weren't going to sell what they were. They were just were already predetermined if they actually made it to the World Series.
Yeah.
That would have been kind of the price level I was looking for. So that I wasn't going to get those sold, but I've definitely seen a cool down in pricing cards being sold.
Definitely. And on that note, like I know if I'm not mistaken, baseball and football are probably your two biggest sports, right?
Yep. Yeah. And then I want to get a lot into basketball these next coming weeks because it's crazy to think that the first game is going to be New Year's. I mean, that's a quick turnaround. We got a couple months to get the season underway. That's just wild. So
It
I
is.
think a couple weeks after the season's over, I'm going to probably start to look. I did pick up a jaw.
Mhm.
Not his optic, his based on his PSA 10. So I'm really happy about that one. And I'm probably going to look to add, maybe him and maybe some trays and potentially some Zions, some RJ. So I just want to add some basketball as we get closer to the start of the next season.
Yeah, definitely. I think the basketball, the only thing that scares me is like the economic downturn. That's really the only thing preventing me right now from being all in. But I think if the
Mm-hmm.
economy doesn't completely tank, I think
Yeah.
the basketball hype for cards going into
Yeah.
next season is going to be insane. So I think those are definitely good buys. But once
Yeah.
again, you're more football and baseball, I'm more basketball and soccer. So all my viewers are tired of hearing all my basketball and soccer takes. I'm curious what's been going on with the baseball playoffs and what have Price has been doing with that. And then, yeah, so that's the first one.
Yeah. So definitely I was loading up on two teams, Yankees and Dodgers. I think my Yankees are gonna be going down a little bit, but the Dodgers, I got my guy right here, Cody Bellinger. So
Nice.
big Cody Bellinger fan. He
Yeah,
was the MVP in the last season. He had a little bit of an off year this year, but granted, I mean, an off year, a guy's gonna knock in 12 home runs in 60 games. There's just a lot of pressure in a guy like Cody Bellinger. And I think the average was down a little bit, but he still had a pretty good year. I think he knocked in 30 and he's hitting right now. He's had a couple home runs. He had a big game saving robbed a home run for Fernando Tatis, I think in like the seventh or eighth inning
oh wow.
in game two. I
Mhm.
mean, a phenomenal catch, one of the best catches you'll ever see. And I think just having that, if you start to see his name more come up, I think his price is going to go up. I think some guys in the Rays could potentially go up. There's a guy, Austin Meadows. He was actually featured on a Sports Card Investor. I couldn't touch him because they were playing the Yankees. I'm like, not going to bet on this
Yeah.
guy at all because the only way his cards are going up is if they beat them. And I don't want that to happen. So
Mhm.
I didn't really care too much to look into that, but definitely any guys in the Rays. Interesting enough is the Astros are in the ALCS right now, and they just have they have stud players, but I don't think it really matters because their guys are Alex Bregman, Correa, Altuve, Springer. Like those are some of the best players in baseball, but they have all that past history for the cheating. So their market, I don't think is really going to go anywhere because there's so many collectors that don't want anything to do with that team. And then you have the Atlanta Braves. Freddie Freeman, he's probably in line to be the NL MVP or one of the guys in conversation. His cards have been going up. I saw him featured on Sports Card Investor, and then one of their best players as well with Acuna. I'm sure his prices are going up, but definitely was geared up for Yankees Dodgers World Series. But I still got the other end of the side with the Dodgers potentially going there with Cody Bellinger. So that'd be kind of cool if they get there. I think his prices are going to go through the roof. And I'm already starting to see that. I was checking this morning to get an idea of what these cards are being listed at a buy now. Granted, they are priced above the market, expecting that, but they're at really good levels, and I would be making really good profits if they get anywhere near that pricing.
Yeah, definitely. That's really interesting. I'm interested to see what happens with the Tampa Bay Rays prices because obviously,
Yeah,
I hate to say it to you, but big upset or whatever, I feel like
yeah.
in baseball, it really has that like regional aspect where people are underrated based on the team they're on. You mentioned
Hmm.
Shaw, you mentioned Zion. Memphis and New Orleans are not
Yeah,
really big markets. And I don't think that really
yeah.
factors. I mean, you have the New York Knicks effect, you have
Not at
the
all.
Angeles Lakers effect, but for the most part, if you're good, your prices and your attention will be there. How is it for
Agree. Yeah, 100%.
how is it for a team like the Rays or I think the A's went on a little bit of a run. How does that affect their prices?
It's completely different. Like you said in basketball, those guys like Ja and Zion, not in the biggest markets, but you still get mass attention to them. Even a guy like Damian Lillard, Portland's not a big team, but he's looked at as one of the best players in basketball. When it comes to baseball, it's completely different. You have guys in very small markets, very small teams that just don't get the attention that they deserve being a top player. So, I mean, Cody Bellinger, he's one of the greatest in the game. I think he gets his fair share of credit. He's a little bit more reserved. He doesn't really do a lot of like commercials in the media and that stuff. So maybe he doesn't get too much attention. But granted, he's in LA. He's in one of the biggest markets. Aaron Judge, I think he's probably the face of baseball. He does probably the most commercials on a national standpoint with, Pepsi and everything. But there's a lot of guys in just these smaller teams like the Rays, like Austin Meadows. They just don't get that attention. Even the A's, like I'm not too familiar with their roster, but I know Chapman's one of their best, their third baseman. He just doesn't get the recognition that he deserves as one of the best players in baseball. But even baseball in itself doesn't really get as much attention as basketball too. But you definitely have some stars in these smaller markets that just don't get that large attention as they should.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of reactions and things happening, shifting over to another thing you know a lot about football. I know a lot of people were coming
Mm-hmm.
into it like you from maybe like a daily fantasy background. And even
Yeah.
one of my friends, I'm full ignorant today. The Eagles running back, the rookie, I forget his name, but we picked up a couple of his cards and
Sanders or someone else?
I think it's Sanders, yeah. I believe he's a rookie.
Yeah.
He actually had
He
like
was last year. Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, excuse me, but he had like a pretty big
You're
game,
good.
and the card prices didn't do anything. So were we just
Really?
lucky in that sense, or are you seeing these sharp rises that people were kind of predicting from the football players this year?
Yeah, football's been tough. I went heavy on football before the start of the season. I haven't really picked up much now because the
Um,
prices are really hard to understand. Like the movement doesn't make a lot of sense.
yeah,
It's a little off. Like the quarterbacks are getting that jumps. Like I'm sure Dak's cards are through the roof. Josh Allen, Kyler Murray's doing well.
hmm,
But on the other standpoint, like running backs, wide receivers, their market's really tough to figure out right now. So I haven't been picking up too many of those just because it seems so unpredictable. Like, even if they have a good game, like are they going to go up? Like I picked up a guy like Dalvin Cook, an ungraded card, but it was like a numbered card,
uh-huh.
and I'm listening like for barely anything. He's having a great year. He's been one of the top backs in the league. I'm like, this ain't even getting anything on it. So it's kind of interesting and really just tough to understand the football market right now.
Yeah, it's tough. But also at the same time, something interesting I've been seeing. I follow on TikTok actually. There's this guy. I want to say it's like American Arbitrage or one of these like thrift store, junkyard,
Yeah.
any type of guys. And he will find these football cards for 50 cents, like a guy like Allen Robinson or something like that. And then when he
Wow.
has one big game, he's able to sell it for $20, $30. Where in basketball, those cards don't
Wow.
exist. There are no 50-cent variations that you can pick up of guys who are playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Wow.
definitely
Yeah. That's sweet.
yeah, so I maybe I should be picking up some more like hitting some more junk sales, garage sales, swap meets type of thing.
Yeah. Or even like ComC too. They got those you can get those raw ungraded cards for a couple bucks. Have you looked into ComC at all? I haven't, but I know like the comeback card investor Brad, he does a lot of buying on well, he actually buys it on Beckett Marketplace, and then he sells them on ComC. So
Yeah,
have you looked into Beckett at all?
I haven't done that, and we talked about it a little on your channel too. Like,
Yeah.
not gonna lie, I saw that. I don't think it was him specifically, but I saw people buying these random $2 cards in bulk, and I was like, this is the
Yeah.
dumbest thing I've ever seen. it's never going to work.
Yeah,
He knows how to work the Beckett and
he
Conti.
does. He'll
Um,
buy like these cars for like $1 and it was something for like 25 bucks. I'm like, what?
yeah, I mean,
How?
it's obviously working for him. I did
Yeah.
big. It's good for soccer cards because it's good. Like, I don't know, I don't have much experience for it, but I can imagine like you shouldn't be buying John Morant prisms on ComC. I'm not sure that's exactly the best move. But for soccer
Yeah.
cards, a lot of these random leagues, these smaller players, it's really good. It is exactly that. When you're picking up $2 cards, that's the place
Yeah.
to have. One thing I was thinking about getting into was Star Stock. I've been seeing a lot of
Okay. Yeah. Same.
about that. And
Yeah.
especially
That one looks
like,
really interesting, especially because they, you
yeah,
got,
sorry. Especially with like they have the Star Stock A where they kind of not grade the cards, but they talk about the condition of them themselves. I'm curious how beneficial it would be if you're buying these Star Stock A's and you're getting them graded. You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? Just you're
Yeah.
maybe get more tens. Obviously, you're paying a lot more, but it would be interesting to see if that increased rate, kind of having someone else look them over before you even get them would be beneficial.
100%. Wow. That is cool. I totally forgot they do grade on those cards and on like a scale. And then, yeah, if those are coming back like nines, tens all day, that's definitely something to, almost a foolproof process if it really works out like that. That's sweet.
Yeah. I know you mentioned, I think when I was on, I'm obviously big into grading. Has that been something you looked into
Yeah.
recently or something you've thought about doing?
I've been looking more on raw cards and trying to just look at the centering, all that stuff. But I'm definitely gonna at some point make a move. I just want to look at the prices of what they're going for raw, and then in comparison to a 9 or a 10, just in case it did come back, say a 9. Like, is it break even? Am I losing $2 or $3 or 20? Like, well, I just want to get the logistics behind it, but definitely want to start venturing into some ungraded and get them graded because I do have some cards in my PC that I want to get graded as well. So I'll probably try to look to get maybe like a bulk submission in, maybe like 20 or so cards and get them sent in. But that's super exciting. I've never sent anything for graded, so
Yeah.
that's really
Getting
fun.
getting them back is literally like Christmas. You know what I mean? Like Christmas
Yeah,
every time. I
dude,
mean,
I can't even imagine just opening it up. It'd be a blast.
yeah, it's great. I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, I'm excited to even get an Amazon package. If I got toothpaste for me downstairs, it's fun to go get that. But
Yeah.
the unfortunate thing is PSA recently raised prices. Um, again,
hmm
and the turnaround times are just crazy. So that's having a big effect on the hobby. You mentioned RJ Barrett. I picked up one of his PSA 9 Donruss orange lasers for $40 shipped.
Nice.
And at this
Wow.
point, that's the cost of grading. You know what I mean? Grading is for the regular submission. If you're going through PSA, it is $50.
Yeah.
So
Wow. That's
it's it.
expensive.
I could see there being a real shortage of graded cards potentially. Like, people think they're going to be getting them back for the next NBA season, and then they're not there.
hmm
So
Wow. Yeah, that changed a lot too. That
yeah,
timing, yeah, because
I,
in this market, timing's everything. If you don't have that card ready to list, and that's when that card's going up, that's tough. Yeah, definitely the turnaround time makes a huge difference.
yeah, definitely. I think you're actually going to be in a good position where you're buying a lot of these basketball graded cards right now. Are you looking?
Mm.
What's the exit strategy on those? Are you looking to flip them right at the beginning of the season? Are you waiting for a big game, or what kind of thought process are you going through with those basketball cards?
Yeah, so I guess depending on how many cards I do pick up, I'll
Yeah,
probably look to, just be a little defensive and maybe sell like one or two. Like say I pick up eight or 10 potentially. I don't know the exact number I'm looking to get, but I probably would if I start seeing them go up in value as we get like a week or two away. I might look to just sell one or two if I can get a nice profit and then hold them throughout the season. Maybe if I think like they're going to make the playoffs, like the Grizzlies make the playoffs and get a nice spike in jaw. So looking for like maybe potential exits like that. But again, these guys are super young and they're not the greatest teams. So
yeah,
you don't really have that like hold them throughout the entire season. I feel like at some point maybe they make the All-Star game or just balling out completely. Their prices are up, stuff like that. So I probably like would stagger it throughout the year and try to see how they trade. And maybe even like look to buy in if one of them has to do. One of them's like performing poorly at some point.
yeah, definitely. You mentioned a lot of these young, promising guys. I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, but your Giannis's, your Lucas,
Mhm.
Kawhis have taken huge hits. 50%.
Yeah.
Is that something you are looking into picking up, or you've picked up already?
I would definitely love to pick up a Luca
Mm,
on a dip. Big fan of Luca. He's one I did invest in. I made a pretty nice flip on his. But if his Donruss is around 300 PSA 10 Donruss, I
yeah.
would hop all over that because I picked that up at like 205 and then
Mm,
I sold it for like 437. So if that thing is at like 300 or so, I think that's a screaming deal. Anything under three is like, whew, yeah. But I think he already dipped to like 370. So it's getting close to getting to that $300 range. And I would probably scoop in and pick up one of those because long term, I think he is going to be special. He's fun to watch, one of my favorite players. And you already got the KP and him dynamic. I mean, they're a team that can make some noise going forward. They got a great organization, a team that wants to win, an owner that wants to win with Mark Cuban. I mean, he did it with Dirk. He built him a championship team. Not it's going to happen next year or the year after, but at some point, I think Luka in his career is going to get a chip at his age, pairing him with KP, getting some other pieces around him. He's a guy I really like. I think Giannis, he's a phenomenal player and value. His cards are just a little too out of my price range. I mean, I think right now I was looking at his like signature rookie card. I think it was priced at like $1,000. Like it's just too high. And same with Kawhi. I think Kawhi's came down a little bit, but for like I would say his cards are probably still like $600-700 without having looked at him in the past. But
yeah.
I think Luca might be have that value just with that Donruss set.
Yeah, that's a tough thing for me too. Like you're tying up so much money to get in for Kawhi or Giannis. I don't know. Maybe it's a
Yeah,
dumb mindset to have, but if I'm gonna buy someone's rookie card, I want to buy one of their main ones, their flagship ones. I know there's Giannis ones out there that exist for
yeah,
$100, but it's just not really. I'm something I'm
okay,
interested in buying. And also on Giannis,
yeah,
like I believe in him. I just think the Bucks, they're not going to do anything next season. They're not going to be able to bring
yeah,
anyone there. No one wants to come to Milwaukee. They don't have the trade assets.
yeah. It's the thing. If they don't get someone key, like they're gonna have a tough time in there,
Tough.
and
And
they just can't get it done. Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, and on Luca, you mentioned him. I would like to buy him. One thing I've been thinking about with him is I keep seeing everyone posting about the Lucas they're picking up, and it's made me realize how many different cards and variations he has. And I know that's
Mm-hmm.
far from an original thought. I'm sure there's plenty of like real OG collectors in here who will be shaking their fists. There's too many cards out there. Do you see that have any kind of an effect on his prices? Because I just feel like there's so many Luca cards out there, which kind of worries me.
It definitely could. I mean, yeah, you got Chronos, you got Dahmers, you got
Yeah,
Prism. I'm sure there's a few other ones that are not like coming to me right now, but it definitely can because when one's going up, you might see people jump ship and go to the other one. So it definitely like timing of when to get in and out of cards because there could be shifts between which cards you're looking for in that set or of that player. So that could definitely impact the pricing. But I think always those true ones probably do the best overall. Like maybe like his best card is definitely that Prism. So I think that one will always do the best. But those other ones could do well as well, and you might start to see okay, this one's undervalued a little bit, and then investors or collectors start to go and pick up that one. Make like maybe a hoops, like maybe a hoops is selling just too cheap, and you see people start selling their Dahmerses and moving into the hoops, and then the hoops get too expensive, then they go back to the Dahmer. So that's what's really interesting in the market. It's ever changing. Definitely very hard to time, but I feel like we do our best to kind of just get an idea of where those prices are going and try to kind of get in and out as best as we can.
definitely. And you're obviously, you're very knowledgeable about basketball. I think most of my subscribers are at the very least knowledgeable about basketball. I have a lot of people I know who watch me
Mhm.
just for basketball, some people who enjoy the soccer
Yeah.
more, but I think even the guys who watch me for soccer, they at least know basketball. There's a lot of Americans and stuff on
Yeah.
my channel. Do you have any advice to them? Maybe things that are different if they're interested in getting involved in football and baseball coming from more basketball?
Hmm. Yeah, let me think. So basketball is definitely probably the hottest market, I would say.
Yeah.
And baseball can be definitely a little sluggish. Like it's kind of weird. Like if you said like last year's MVP in the league, yeah, be honest, like his cards are incredibly expensive. And then you're thinking like in the MLB, you have the prior year MVP with Cody Bellinger, and you look at his prices, like this guy is you would think he's like not even known in the league. So at times the baseball market might not be as hot and as exciting, but I think it's still fun. I think there's still money to be made if you kind of look for the right guys to invest in. But it definitely is not as hot and as exciting as the basketball market. Besides Mike Trout, there's no one really pulling those LeBron numbers or those KD numbers. Like he is above everyone. Like no one gets close to his cards in the modern day baseball. When it gets to vintage, cards get very, very expensive and probably just as high as some of other markets like basketball and football. But modern day, it's crazy to think how high Mike Trout's prices are and how low other guys' prices are. Like even Albert Pujols, his cards are nowhere near Mike Trout's, and Albert Pujols is definitely going to get into Hall of Fame. He's one of the best baseball players of all time, and he might be a guy I might potentially look into. But yeah, definitely not as exciting, but still a lot of fun. I think still some good money to be made. When it comes to football, I think football with the quarterback market, it's very relatable to the basketball market. Definitely some very high prices, especially with Patrick Mahomes. His car prices are super expensive, have a lot of volatility. And then when you got like the running backs, wide receivers, you'll get the top guys that get some price movement, but some guys definitely lag in that market as well. And I think a big part of it is because in basketball, you have basically five guys that play on each team, a lot less players to invest in opposed to in baseball. You got pitchers, you got hitters, and then in football, you have a plethora of positions. So
Yeah,
definitely different on that standpoint with there just being a lot more players to potentially invest in those sports.
definitely. Um, One other thing, again on baseball, a thing I take a lot of pride in my channel is being like very like level-headed, investing in your Lucas, your LeBrons, having a entry
Mm,
exit strategy, not doing too much prospecting. But unfortunately, something I really want to get into is baseball prospecting. Just like these minor league guys,
yeah.
it's just the coolest thing in the world to me that you really can buy them for $1 and then it's to 100,
Hmm.
and you don't see
Yeah.
that much
It's nuts.
in basketball. Would you have any advice for people? I'm sure just hearing that, so people watching right now, that's exciting for them. Any advice for people who are getting into baseball prospecting and want to look more at these minor league guys?
Yeah, I would imagine there's a lot of like articles you can read. The
Yeah,
top 100 prospect listing is probably a great place to start. You can even go at the very bottom of the list, see who's number 100, and see, okay, is this guy actually should he be this low? Like, or is this guy like have potential to be a top prospect? Maybe it's because he's number 100 because he's so much younger and he's a ways away from becoming a major league baseball player. So I think that's a great place to start. I would say top 100 prospects, you're probably going to get some gems in there for the future. And then just kind of maybe watch some tapes and see what people say about him, see the scouting reports, see why this guy's projected so high, and also the teams. I think teams are big too. He's in a big market, and he could be in a position where, say, he's a third baseman, but they have a stud third baseman for the next 6-7 years. When is he going to get his opportunity? So understanding what the talent, but also is there an opportunity for this player on this team in the foreseeable future, and maybe just start looking into that and see their price as well. But there's definitely a lot of potential right now. Luis Robert, one of the hottest players in the game, he was a rookie this year. I mean, the guy is built like a truck, and he's one of the fastest players in baseball right now. He's super exciting. I picked up combo as his raw rookie card, so excited about him. But definitely, I mean, who knows where his price is going to go in the next few years? But definitely a lot of potential in guys in the prospects going into the majors.
definitely. And you mentioned him. You mentioned a couple games. Just to wrap this up, I know everyone's favorite thing on YouTube is picks. They love card picks. What maybe not,
Mhm.
there's no guarantees on my channel, but what are some guys that you're looking to pick up in the next couple months that you think could be a good buy?
Yeah, so short term, definitely going to start looking for basketball. That's going to be my main focus. So I think we touched on a lot of them. I think Luca, depending on the price, I'm going to look to pick him up. But I think definitely Ja. I like Ja a lot. I did pick up a Trey and I sold it. His cards are a little bit higher than Ja, so I think Ja is a little bit more of an attractive price for me. And then possibly Zion too, if his cards are a little bit lower, and maybe as a RJ Barrett. And then for long terms, I think I might start looking to pick up some Jeter cards. So I'm a big Jeter fan, big Yankee fan. And if his cards are maybe like $300 or so, I might start to pick up some of his cards because just for the long term, I want to get a little bit more long term focus as well. Because then I'm like, I don't care what the prices do. Like long term, we'll check it in a year or two, and we'll see where this card's at. And if it didn't work out, then I'm like, okay. But if it did, I might look to sell, or I might even look to add another one or so.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about Jeter. I'm not sure if you've seen, but like Pokemon cards are exploding right now.
Oh,
Yep.
dude, insane. Did you
Yeah.
see last night Logan Paul?
Yep.
He was live. He spent 165K on that box, and I was watching it last night. I actually was pulling up this morning to watch a little of the replay. He did pull a Charizard. It
Wow.
was a little off centered, but still, I think that graded in PSA 9 is like a $75,000 card.
That's
And he
great.
was selling each pack for I think $1,111, and I believe most of it was going to charity. I know he was donating 50,000 and he already raised 75,000 for mental health, which is really cool. So, I mean, dude, Pokemon's blowing up. Do you have any like you follow more, right?
Yeah. Well,
Or a little bit?
I definitely don't like. I loved Pokemon as a kid. Like people say, oh, I love cards
Mm,
or I loved it. No, I really loved Pokemon as a kid. So like that makes me want to get into it. I don't own any. I have a binder somewhere, but those are definitely beat up.
oh, you
But
do?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Do you have
it'll
any first editions at all, or?
I mean, it was definitely like old. Like when I see those Charizards or some of this stuff, like when Logan Paul was open, I was like, yo, I definitely had those cards at least at some point. So it'll be interesting to
Wow.
see. I could end up having a gem in there. But what I'm more want to talk on to that is because I definitely can't speak about Pokemon with any type of knowledge. But it's
Yeah.
interesting. All the card stuff now seems very like nostalgia fueled as opposed to before when it was like, here's how you can make quick money. I'm interested to see, like
Yeah.
we spoke about Jeter. People are going to start just buying things from their childhood. People are huge fans
Yep.
of Jeter. They remember that. So you've already seen a rise in vintage, but I think even we talked
Definitely.
about it in the interview on your channel. Your smaller players. I mentioned Reggie Bush, someone I'm a huge fan of. I could see those going. You know.
Yeah, definitely. The guys who have really great college careers, or
Yeah.
just that nostalgic, and there's guys who like you've been watching as a kid, like a Jeter for me, or like a
Yeah.
Peyton Manning, and those guys are like iconic in the sport. So as long as the market goes up, they should go up with it, because there's really no reason for them to even take a hit. I mean, two of the best players to play their respective sports, super well liked, still in the game. I mean, Jeter is an owner, so he's always going to be tied to baseball. He doesn't do too many interviews, but he still keeps up for the most part. And then with Peyton, it's always in commercials. I believe he's going to get into commentary at some point. But Pokemon is super interested. I really want to start looking to potentially pick up some Pokemon cards, because they're like artwork. They're super cool. And even if it starts to become a flip, I think the nostalgic factor of it, there's going to be people that just like to own the cards regardless. So it's
Yeah.
going to be interesting to see where that market goes. Right now, it's a tough time, especially with a guy like Logan Paul getting in and bringing so much attention to it. So I'd be curious to see if in the next few weeks we start to see a pullback, which would be cool. That'd be pretty healthy for the market. But who knows? I mean, at some point, I mean, what's the limit on some of these cards to go up? I mean, the Charizard PSA 10 for 200,000. That's wild. That's just wild to me. I don't know what the print runs are, and I'm imagining it's more of a like a trading game. So a lot of those cards are probably not in premium condition, and that's factored in for sure. So the scarcity of it, and they're not reprinting first editions or anything. So I mean, it's a really fascinating market. But of course, the cards you want are just beyond out of price range. So
Yeah.
that comes into question. Where do you look next? And I don't know enough about Pokemon to look, but I think that could potentially be the value in itself. It's like, okay, yeah, these cards are like incredibly expensive, can't go anywhere near them. But what is kind of lagging in the Pokemon market? And I'd be really curious to try to see what that card would be, or those cards would be.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to look into that. I think you're right on. I imagine those PSA pop reports are really low. So once those, Shadow
Yeah,
Charizard PSA 10s are gone, they're gone. So they just kind of
yeah,
the price will really rise. That's something I'll definitely have to look
mhm,
into. But
yeah.
I'm running up on my Zoom limit here. That's the kind of shoddy production we have here at Trike 415 Sports Cards. So I just want to thank you so much for being on. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, appreciate having me.
Definitely. So everyone go check out Anthony. Milone Money Mindset has really great content, some great interviews. He does live streams as well that I was on. So definitely go check out our interview and go check out his ones coming up. You can engage, and it's really cool how you can comment and get that live reaction. So everyone, thanks for watching. Gonna keep the
Yeah,
video.
thanks everyone. Have a
Yeah,
great one.
definitely. See you guys.
Peace.